All right, everyone. Nate and Beth stopping on by, returning to conclude
Mm,
our reviews of Friday the 13th, the series. In this case,
the final episode is episode 20 from season 3. The Charnel Pit.
Beth wasn't, well, neither of us were sure how to pronounce it when we read the word, but just pretty much pronounced like it's
Sounds.
spelled. So, yeah, for some reason, I don't know, this one I found it hard to keep track of the deaths, so it's either 3 or 4 deaths, 1 or 2 like not on screen. It goes between times, and it's just hard to tell who.
Okay, let's
Okay,
slow this down a little
let's
bit.
slow it down.
There are 2 cursed items that are actually related, but we don't find that out until the end. The main cursed item is a double-sided portrait from the 1700s, 1790s.
Yeah,
And one side depicts life and the other one depicts death. So when a victim is brought up to the modern side of the picture, which is the side of life, and gets a little bit of blood on it, a
blood.
portal opens and she's pushed through to the 1700s and becomes a slave to this rich man's, I don't know, sexual, painful desires. It's like a modern day
What's those movie series?
dominatrix. Oh, yeah, like 50 Shades of Grey. Only
Uh,
from the 1700s and,
18th century.
yeah, well, no, 17th century, well, 18th century, I guess.
Yes.
The deal is, I guess, when a victim from the current time gets pushed back into the picture, a peasant from that time gets pushed back into the present through the opposite side or the death side of the picture with
And
some partridge papers about the king or who the important person at the time that people were trying to write books on, like the beginning of what is that called?
French Revolution.
Not oh, the French Revolution, yes, but I was talking about the sexual acts. Dom, dominatrix,
Oh, Kama
domineering,
Sutra.
not Kama Sutra. I know that one.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe you can show
You're not
me.
flexible enough for it. That's like 50 Shades of Grey. What is that called? Where you are,
Submissive.
yeah, the submissive and the dom submissive role, but the guy is always supposed to give the woman equal pain for pleasure, but she dies in the pain before she can receive the pleasure.
There's a lot of
There's a lot to
details, and the fact that it cuts between 18th and 20th century doesn't help. And do we want to also mention that? So in each of these times, there's like a sadistic, guy. And is it? I heard this word before in the Howling, Marquis de Sade. Is that the guy
That was, yes,
in
the
the
guy they were
18th
writing about, the
century?
Marquis de Sade,
Is
yes.
he the pervert from
He's the
the
pervert
18th
from the
century?
18th
But there's a
century.
pervert from the 20th as well, who's like a professor who, he's the one who gets the students and then puts them through, and then the Marquis de Sade can do what he wants to them in the 18th century, and then he gets a peasant from the 18th century back
With
into the 20th
with
century.
information from the Marquis de Sade, or however you
And the
say his name.
information is,
Helps him write his books.
oh, okay. So
lost
what's
letters.
crazy? Sorry, what's crazy is I sit here and watch this thing, and I was completely unaware that he got information. I'm not good at absorbing all the details on the first viewing, so
Well, and kind of the twist is Mickey inadvertently falls through the life side and ending up in the death side. So she goes from the 20th to the 18th century, and ends up writing a letter from this letterbox, which was the original cursed item that they were looking for.
That was cool.
Describing how the picture works, and all these dead bodies are showing up over 3 months. I don't know what they said that the count was. Several women. But the women that they were finding in the modern time didn't have any dental work or anything done. So
Some
the
missing
cops
teeth, maybe.
the cops weren't connecting them to the missing women who were going through the painting. So it was kind of a perfect murder because they never had anything to connect them.
Never any bodies, yeah.
Well, they had bodies, just not from the current century.
Gotcha.
So all they'd have to do is change the dress to something more modern and throw them in a river, and another body's found in the river. But all these bodies were also showing up in the Marquis de Sade's forest, which might possibly have been the same area as the river, but they didn't put that connection in. So, I mean, it was intriguing. Oh, and at the end, Mickey's like, "Oh, the letter describing how the painting works, it was read. Do you think this is why all these bodies were killed?" And
To make people... Sorry.
And Jack, in his wisdom, said people are going to find evil where they seek it. So
To make people that might not have seen the episode understand, when Mickey was in the 18th century, she wrote a letter about how this thing works and her thoughts on stuff. And then when this evil guy in the 20th century, professor, got a hold of this, he might have read the letter and figured out how it worked based on her letter that she wrote, her being from the 20th century back to 18th, wrote the letter. It was that was, to me, that was a little detail at the very end, and to me that was like the coolest thing about the whole episode. And she's like, "God, am I responsible for the people this man killed because I wrote this letter on how this thing works?" So that was fun.
It's like Terminator. Doesn't make sense, because how can something written before it was discovered become...
Oh, that is kind of like Terminator. Like the father of the future boy is the guy who was sent from the future to... I don't know. I'd have to think about it longer. This seems more plausible, but it is kind of very similar. How do you write the letter?
The picture was already doing the deaths before she wrote the letter.
She couldn't have gone back unless to write the letter unless it was happening. Yeah, that's true. It is comparable to Terminator 1.
Mm-hmm.
Admittedly, I'm not the biggest fan of the 18th century unless it's Mozart, Amadeus going, ha ha, whatever century that was from. I will say that, the costumes and production design for the 18th century for this episode were pretty well done for a horror TV show from the early 90s at this point.
Yeah.
And finally get a chance to see... Well, I won't say that, so I won't make
Mickey's back.
Mickey's front and back, but
what's it called? The cleavage. They showed quite a bit of cleavage because of the costume she was wearing.
So that was appreciated.
She was impersonating a duchess.
It gets itchy when we review.
Yes, I'm itching for a new topic to watch and review.
Well, that we're not going to we'll figure it out in due time and see what's the deal with that. Let me ask you a question. Was it equally or confusing for you to try to figure out the body count?
I couldn't keep up with the body count.
I felt mentally inferior. I was just like, why is this so difficult? Like, am I losing brain cells? And why was it? Because it's like...
It was
2 times periods.
Yeah, 2 time periods.
And plus, you can't keep track of the characters, the victims, like who's where and what's what, how.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, at least I wasn't alone.
But in the end, they kind of switched how it worked, because Jack's like, well, if we send live bodies there and we get dead bodies back, what if we send 2 dead bodies there? Will 2 live bodies come back?
I did like how
Johnny took the clue and jumped through after he saw the 2 dead bodies come through the painting, and the Marquis de Sade was talking to Mickey saying, "You may not survive," and she's like, "Well, anything is better than living here with you," and she jumps through and she's alive. And
What
than
about,
the ending. What?
I mean, during that letter, she was writing like how it's just the most amazing man she's ever met, and like,
His sexual
yeah,
desires,
it
his
made it seem
fears.
like she wanted to stay, and then at the end she doesn't. What's the deal with that?
Well, she was kind of hoping that someone from the other side would read the letter and maybe save her.
Okay.
Maybe it was her escape route or her final goodbye, saying, "Oh, this is how it happened. If someone can learn from this," which, again, it's Terminator technology or theory.
Terminator Theory,
Terminator
the new
theory.
college course.
Because how can he learn how to kill from something that he was already killing from just because of her letter? But they were looking for the letterbox and ended up with the letterbox and the painting, and the vault closes with both of them in there, and
It was
I
kind
guess
of
there's
cool.
just kind of a dead ending.
It was kind of cool how the last episode ended with camera inside the vault and closing on the three characters and going to black, almost as if they knew it was the end. Before we started, Beth and I hypothesized, like, okay, what do you think, Beth? Are they gonna acknowledge that this is the end, or will it just be a normal ending?
It was
And
kind of
it's
an
just
acknowledgement ending, but
well, the last shot was, but
it just seemed like they were gonna try to get more stuff. But
yeah, it doesn't wrap the series up. I bet they just canceled it just for some reason, like,
ratings.
before they finished the season. So, oh well.
But to end the thumb rating on this one, I'm actually going to give it a full thumbs up because it was different in the fact that it had two objects that were connected to each other directly and or indirectly.
What's the second object again?
The writing box that Mickey ended up writing the letter to, saying, "If anyone finds this is this is what happened."
I'm not too sure.
Which is what they were originally looking for. And then they found the picture, and that led to the episode.
Okay.
But it was very well crafted, I would say. So I'm going to give it a full thumbs up.
I'd say I'll give a notch down from a full thumb because I'm not, that amazed. I'm not that keen on 18th century stuff unless you've got a character going, oh, 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 and making music and stuff. So, gosh, we don't have to reach for the screen to see what the next episode is, do we? There are no next episodes. So
this is it, kids.
I just was thinking earlier today, this is like, we were doing this for like a year and a half. I think we started January or February of last year, and ending on this is being recorded on the first day of summer, 2023, so...
It's been a journey.
It's been a journey, everyone. And
before I start crying.
Oh, shit. Before we hit 14 minutes.
Thank you so much for listening.
Hope you've enjoyed our reviews of Friday the 13th.
The series.
That's the wrong thing, but
I don't care.
She doesn't care. Is that it, Beth?
I think so, kids. See you next time, or hear you next time, or listen to you next time, however it goes. Thanks for joining us on this journey.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening.